Hello and welcome to the Recovery Report Live. Today is a great day. We have an unbelievable guest on today. I want to get into one of the most things most near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk a little bit about football. We're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about teamwork. We're going to talk about how to effectively build a winning legacy today. But before I get to that, I want to introduce a couple of bits of breaking news here. This week, a couple days ago, it was just announced that a fourth insurer has effectively said to the Florida legislature and the regulators in the state of Florida that they will be leaving the market. Many of the reasons for them making this decision was about risk mitigation, of course, but also the litigation environment, the same old issue that we continue to have here in Florida, or in our opinion, the same old reason, excuse that these insurers continue to give. Unfortunately, on the back of that, and a very important announcement was also made by the state-backed insurer Citizens. They are continuing to work on a approval for a double-digit increase, which will go into effect here in Florida in November. So be on the lookout for that. There's a lot of turmoil, a lot of issues still going on. We are at the one of the hardest parts of a market cycle here in Florida for the property and casualty insurers, and we want to continue to monitor this and continue to see what's going on. The state legislature has made several attempts. They've introduced several bills and made several amendments to try and curb some of the issues, but it seems to be for naught at this point. It seems to not help and be ineffective, up until now. So let's see how this plays out. We're going to continue to monitor it, continue to give you guys the information, and bring you guys breaking news whenever it comes out. So let's get right into the show today. I want to introduce our guest. I mentioned before, this is one of the, in my opinion, one of the best conversations I think we're going to have here on the Recovery Report Live this year. It's because I can talk about something that near and dear to my heart, football. We're going to talk a lot of football today. And I want to introduce our guest today, Mr. James Schumaker. Mr. James Schumaker, welcome.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here, and like you said, Matt, talking football. Let's go. This is what we do.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So, wanted to introduce you a little bit more so the audience knows who you are, and we'll get right into it. Okay. So, a real estate veteran with over 25 years of experience in the operations, business development, and leadership. We've talked a little bit about your strategy, how you work with your team, how you grow the team. We talked business strategy before, of course. You have a strategic mindset, and from our discussions and getting to know you over the past year, I can truly see that you have this knack, this ability to build partnerships. And I feel that even though again it's been a short time since we've been interacting and talking and being friendly, I feel like I've known you my whole life. It's very easy to talk to you. You're very personable. It's very cool, and I appreciate that. And I think we align in that sense. Our teams are like that. Your team is like that. I know certainly a bunch of your teammates there at Castle, and everyone's kind of the same. And that's refreshing and great. And you guys, you are building a winning legacy in that regard, at least from a team perspective, right? One of the things I want to talk about, because it's also near and dear to my heart, you work with the Kids Safe Foundation. We'll get into that a little bit here, but we do a lot of philanthropic events. We work with Camilla's House. I just actually got named as the chair for the CAI charitable committee. So we're going to be doing a lot of events coming up. I want to talk to you about that offline a little bit more. See if we can get together and do some things there. And thank you. And the fun twist, again, going back to football. And my teammates, my team here, certainly they get these football analogies from me all the time, and I have to, say sorry for it most of the time because they probably don't know what I'm talking about. But an avid cheesehead, a huge Green Bay Packers fan, season ticket holder still, correct? You are a partner, right? You are an owner.
Yes, sir.
I love that.
Yes, sir.
And we'll get into that. I see the football and the Green Bay Packers sign behind you. I love it. It's right there on the screen. Perfect. Very good, very good. So let's get into it a little bit. I was at the office earlier this week. I saw the wall with the timeline, with all the pictures and all the milestones and all that, and I loved it. I loved it. We love stuff like that. We're going to start doing that here at GlobalPro in our office. We're building it out right now. But let's start there. Let's talk about the history, the values, the expertise that the Castle Group brings to the table, and let's get into that conversation.
No, that's great. It's great that you got to visit what we call home office, right? Because you can see the culture right there from the very beginning when you walk in and you see the timeline and the story. So I'm glad that you had a chance to do that. Yeah, man, I love the story of Castle Group because it's not only a major success story, but it's also a success story of staying true to the values of a company that started off as three, and now has grown to 2,300. And
Wow.
it's just great to see that, that growth and that legacy carry forward. But being part of Castle Group for myself for the last 7 years, we've experienced this great growth, but it's been calculated growth, right? We haven't been driven by shareholder value or equity group growth, or data driven from some other entity. We're driven really by what James Donnelly, the founder, his brother Rob, his best friend from grade school, Craig Vaughn, those three had the mindset and the foundational aspects from the very beginning, one customer at a time with intentional results. And that's what drives really the foundation. I think that that's really our differentiator is treating the customer like it's meaningful and it's important versus you're just one of many numbers. And I think that story resonates to our customers today, and to you as a vendor and a partner of ours, right? It's dealing with the people. The culture is paramount to James Donnelly, and it is to all of us as executives in the company. And I think that is what remains, true today with 2,300 people. Is it's treating our teammates, our vendors, our partners, our homeowners, our boards, and that culture becomes contagious for a work culture inside the company and outside the company. So it's a great feeling to be part of that.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and again, relating that to your favorite team as an owner, right? Your Green Bay Packers for decades now, right? One of the greatest coaches, one of the greatest stories of all time, some of the best players of all time, certainly the quarterbacks, the receivers, the running backs. We can go on and on and on. I would argue you have some of the best offensive linemen of all time there throughout the years, and you have a couple right now that are really, really good, and hopefully they're healthy and back after some injuries. But relate that to kind of the Green Bay Packers. What are some of the similarities? You told me in a discussion we were having that you draw a lot of inspiration. You hear what the coaches say, what the front office says, and that's helped you out and certainly given you some ideas and some inspiration for how you're managing the successful growth and a lot of the stats you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's so true, Matt. You and I were chuckling before, and every time we see each other, we're talking football. So we know that it's real. It's not scripted for this webinar, right?
Yeah.
But I actually love the question because almost everything I do, whether it's being a husband, a parent, a leader at the company, volunteering, I pull everything from my Packers, my beloved Packers, and NFL at times. So I think, every day we encounter something that's unique in the workplace that you can tie to something in sports. And for me, I'll use the lectures from our head coach or the locker room speeches, things like that. And some of the things that come to mind are like next man up, right? Next man or woman up. You have to be ready for the unforeseen in football, and you have to be ready for when your name or your number's called. And it's really kind of the same strategy in property management. Like we have bench managers, we have support teams, we have different processes in place to make sure that we are ready for when that need arises, when that call comes. And so, I think, whether it's a real injury or it's something else, being present and being available is kind of that next man or woman up mentality. I use that often. Another mindset that I kind of go to is every time after a game, Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Packers, he always talks about never flinch. And that never flinch mindset, it's because you're going to have a fumble, right? You're going to have a pick, you're going to have a turnover. Something bad is going to happen in the day, in the game. And he always tells his team to never flinch because you're right back out there like nothing happened, short memory, and go in there and execute the next play. And I think in your business and in ours, right, it's the same thing. Like we want to make sure that our team doesn't flinch per se, because we're going to have issues every day, and we're going to have conflict and conflict resolution, and it's going to be very stressful. And I think that ability, from our team and our culture and our subscription to values, you have to be able to recognize the emotional part of it, put it aside, and go after the next play, go after the issue that needs to be solved, and execute upon that. So, those are just some of those things that come to mind. that the challenges and the stress that comes to the individual person, to the team, you have to kind of have that next person up mentality. You have to have that don't flinch mindset. And it's very true here, in Castle Group. I guess the final thing that comes to my mind is, and you've heard this often being in the football vernacular, but it's a cancer in the locker room, right? And we don't have many of them here at Castle. We were very intentional on who we hire and how we vet and train and support. But the reality is, the truth is that there's going to be somebody that really doesn't fit and doesn't subscribe to your values, and is a cancer in the locker room, or a cancer in the boardroom, or a cancer on the site. And you have to, it's uncomfortable, but you have to make a good business decision to make sure that that doesn't spread to your team. And you have to deal with that cancer in the locker room, right? So that's another thing that I bring up a lot, which is you've got to take head on those issues that you have, confront them. And sometimes it means that person's not best cast for being on the team, and you're going to have to make a decision to replace that. So, those are those sports analogies, right, that we love to play off of, but we can use them in real examples as leaders of the company.
Yeah, I always go back to this on the corporate side, in the business world, right? You always say you hire slow and you fire fast, right? So interesting. I was watching a show the other day. I think it was ESPN or something. But there was a group of kids that were at some camp. I think it was a football camp somewhere, and I forget the player that was up there. But this was a guy who was in the NFL. He had tens of millions of dollars in the way of contracts over multiple years, and the interesting thing that he wanted to talk to them about was not the money, not the lifestyle, not the fame and the chance to play in the big leagues and play in the NFL, which is what everyone sees, right? But the intangible, right? He's like, look, I was making 15, 20 million a year, but I wasn't the guy that was on the sideline cheering my teammates on. I wasn't the guy on the sideline happy because we're winning the game. I was the guy on the sideline who was moping because I wasn't in the game, because I wasn't getting the ball. Because he's like, don't be that guy, don't be that teammate, right? We're a team. Everybody's important. You have to fulfill your role, do your job, right? That's a Bill Belichick, old school Bill Belichick. Do your job. Everyone does their job,
Right.
And everyone's role is important, right? As you are a team, right? So I that's what I was thinking about when you were describing Castle Group and your team and the culture and all that. And going back, I mean, the Packers have a long-term legacy. Starting with Vince Lombardi. I mean, it's one of those things where it's about the team, right? So you check your ego. You get in there, you do your job.
Right.
If your job is on the sidelines, cheering your teammates on, making sure that, stay back behind the line. We had one guy that was always making sure we weren't going on the field, It's still important. It's still important. Everybody's important. And when you have someone on the team who's taking an opposite approach, it stands out, right? It does.
It really does.
You can describe it as a cancer, but it does stand out. It does stand out. So, okay. Let's move on to, we're talking internal now. Let's talk external. How do you guys convey this to, if you're looking for new clients, new associations, how do you convey this culture, everything we just talked about? How do you convey that, and ultimately get into some of the customer-focused strategies that kind of surround this whole idea here? Sure.
Well, it's easy for me. Before I was in business development, I was a regional president for Castle Group, and it really helped me, Matt, because I was in the ops, right?
Yeah.
And the operational side is about execution, right? And the operational effectiveness. And now when I'm speaking to potential clients, I bring that up almost every time, because it's important that the client knows I've been in the shoes that you're concerned about, meaning we are addressing your pain points. We're not selling you something.
Yeah.
And I think just the experiential factor of having been there, having done it, and the team that's been through something similar to be able to affect a positive outcome, that's really what makes my job easier. But, I'll probably once again just go right back to culture, and because all things aside, there's great property management firms in this state, and they may all, have similar technology or similar processes, et cetera. But I really think that, like any great sports team, when we talked about the locker, the model and the team must exhibit that subscription to value and culture. And that's really what I talk to these clients about, which is maybe we're all telling you something similar, but at the end of the day, can you really execute upon that brand promise?
Right.
And I think that's that really intentional discussion about, you and I talked about this months ago, but I don't even treat myself or our teammates like property management firm. I think we're consultants. We just happen to be in property management. So really having that consultative approach and critical thinking and understanding short and long range business planning, that's usually different what the board hears versus let me talk to you about violations and work orders and blah, 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 blah. We do that, but I think these board members are very sophisticated and educated, and they want to talk about the business at hand. And much like GlobalPro does, right? You're talking about mitigating risk, protecting risk and your assets, and we're really doing the same thing. So that's where I think the strategy for us is to focus on what we do well, leverage those experiences, those success stories, and just be honest with the client. And honesty, comes through those values that I just managed and the culture.
Yep. Very, very goal oriented too. When you think about it from a macro level, right? You have your core values.
For sure.
You have your customer focused strategies that you were describing. How you treat, how you take care of them, how you service the relationships and the associations and your clients, right? So, very good. So, to kind of wrap all that together, just like the Green Bay Packers, right? You want an enduring kind of legacy, right? So this is the important part. It's one thing to get your internal processes and your culture and all that together and your team together, to convey that and prove that and perform and execute at a high level, right? You just talked about that. How do you make it enduring? You talked about the short and long term aspect of these clients and managing these properties. How do you make it long term? How do you build that winning legacy and sustain it?
Yeah, I think, man, there's a lot of ways to answer that one, Matt. It was many softballs, but I know we have limited time. But I think for me, immediately what comes to mind is just having that servant mindset and having that stewardship mindset, meaning that on a day-to-day basis, it's our leadership team, our executives, all the way at the top to James Donnelly, down to a housekeeper, janitorial, whatever the level and role is. But I think that servant mindset is how you demonstrate that you care about what you do, you care about your teammate, and we support that through training, right? And so training and support are two critical factors for basically what you just mentioned and addressed, which is, if we have the right person on the bus and they're wired for our values and they care about what they do, well, that's one facet. The other is they may not know something or have an experience with something, and we've got to make sure that experiential is accelerated. So bringing customized training to the site, talking to them about whether they're systems related or physical plant related, or even simple things like when do you stand up and greet the person by the name, right? So I think the training and support facets and just our actions, like when we do goodwill and community events, we're out there, right? Whether it's the highest level or the lowest level. And I think the constant diligence towards the teammate and ensuring that they're trained and their support. And then additionally, what's their career pathing? Really sitting down, and we have a PDR, performance development review season every year. And every teammate gets to sit down and talk about how are we doing? How are you doing? Where are you at? Where do you want to go? And I think that when you have sustainability and tenure and stability in the company that we do, it's because of those little things that sit down and ask the questions how you're doing. It could be life balance related. It could be mental. It could be physical, right? So all these things. But I think that's my long-winded answer of saying that there's a lot of things to do, but at the end of the day, it's getting back to the individual person and making sure that they're successful where they're at, and there's a path that they're going to be successful for long-term results.
Great. And then adding the kind of the next element onto that, how have you innovated, right? How has Castle Group innovated? What technologies are you using? It sounds like you have your processes internal, and you have planning, you have intention. It sounds like to me, and then you have performance and execution. So how are you adapting, innovating? What have you guys been doing on a technological basis to support all that, and then obviously support the properties you're managing, the associations you're managing?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, when you just said outside my office here, we're at home office in Plantation. We have 8 values, and one of the values that you saw when you did your walk is innovation. Is
Yeah.
is in our accounts receivable and accounts payable department. And we use technology, and sometimes our best technology is literally just listening to the client saying that I wish I could have this or see this or view this or understand this, and we can make that change and pivot in our own technology and enable that to be an effective outcome. So automation is a driver in technology. Being able to have our own technology in house allows us to adapt quickly.
Right.
But our technology platform, we just believe in best of breed software and best of breed technology. Sometimes that means we have it in house. Sometimes it means there's a company out there that does it better than anyone. Partner and integrate and communicate with that one. So that's kind of our technology platform as a differentiator. But I think it's just being able to stay ahead of the curve, and technology and innovation is asking questions and asking the right questions, and then being able to implement it so that the customer sees the change.
I actually, one of the things I loved about your office, I loved many things, but one of the things I really, really loved, each section, I guess I'll call it, because it's kind of an open architecture.
Hmm.
You have screens on in the various areas where you have different groups, and those screens have, I guess, they're KPIs at the end of the day, right? They're kind of measuring
Right.
a measurement of what's going on for that group, and it's again, everything you're describing kind of bubbles up to that. Where's the planning, where's the intention, where's the execution or the performance, and how are we monitoring it so that we can convey that, so we can push that out externally to our clients and to the world, so that upholds everything that we're doing. So I love that. So that's one of the things. I might have to do that here. I think I already started in my head planning how we're going to do that here, and it's a great idea. I love that. So
It's okay to plagiarize that. That's fine. But
that's allowed.
to your point,
Thank you.
that it's being data driven, right? You can only measure and manage what you manage and measure. And so I think we're very transparent. We want to hold ourselves accountable to service level agreements,
Yeah.
and show that to our team and show that to the board. And I think we've been extremely effective at looking at the data and making sure that we can course correct where need be, but making sure that we're always committed to providing that level of service in an accurate and a timely fashion to both team and client.
And one of the things that blew me away was when we went to I guess it's more of your call center portion of the office, and I looked at the numbers and the percentages and the amount of communication and response time and everything that you guys are doing to ensure exactly what you just said, that the client experience is a good one, and it's up to par, right? It's at the level that
Exactly.
you guys wanted, and again, it's little things like that really kind of bolster. When you go talk to an association, you tell them, here's how we're going to take care of the community. Here's how we're going to
Right.
service the property and manage everything that you guys need. And then you go back to the office and go, wow, it's literally on the walls. It's everywhere here. They're
Yeah,
actually,
not lip service, right? You actually
yeah,
can see it.
yeah. It's great. It's great. So with that being said, one of my favorite things also is kind of the fan or client experience, right? The experience that you're describing, that you work hard to create, and then intentionally go out and execute and perform at a high level to make sure that it's out there. And you were telling me a little bit about how it relates to kind of the Green Bay Packers, fan and client experience. So you want to touch on that a little bit? It's one of my favorite parts about this discussion. So
Yeah, that's the fun part, right? And I guess just like my Packers, right? I would say, if you're a great NFL fan, you have to go to Lambeau Field. You have to try to make that trip, right? It is a bucket list trip.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's the experience you have as a fan is just something that's so meaningful, right? Because the stadium seats 100,000 people, and there's 101,000 people in the city of Green Bay, so it's a pretty unique experience. But all that to say, we I guess it's interesting. We look at it the same way as we actually have an acronym. We have lots of acronyms at Castle Group, but we do call them raving fans. And so, similar to football, we want to make sure that every single homeowner, we have over 300,000 of them, by the way, but every homeowner is a raving fan. And that's just taking immense, pride and passion into the work, that we want every homeowner to be a raving fan. We know that that's not realistic at times because there's issues, right? It's the sprinkler, it's the gate, it's whatever. But I think that that's just a simple alignment, right? Like when you go to the game, you want a great experience, and you want you want to win the game too. And maybe that's the best translation for us here is we want to make sure that they are fans of Castle Group, and the only way they become a fan is that we're executing at a high level. And I think that that's, and you guys, by the way, I'm going to give you a plug. I love your slogan, right? Is it from risk to recovery? Is that the
managing risk to recovery? Yep.
Managing risk to recovery. Like
Yep.
it's such a great slogan because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
There's an issue, help understand the issue, help identify the issue, and recover. Like solve it and make sure you're back to harmony.
Yeah.
And I love that about you guys in GlobalPro. But from a fan experience, you guys really kind of think the same way we do, which is there's a foundational aspect of making sure that whether it's a slogan or not, that we're delivering at a high level on not only your contractual obligations, but you're going above and beyond, and that's what creates a long-term partnership.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you'd mentioned it's called the Royal Service. Is that how you describe it?
Royal Service is it's trademarked at Castle. So James is such a visionary, and I give him so much credit for some of the things we have here. But he thought about what's the secret sauce? Is there a secret sauce? And how can we be different? And he went to the Ritz-Carlton Legendary School of Service and got the intellectual capital, and that's used in all of our training. So it's ladies and gentlemen servicing ladies and gentlemen. And again, that foundational traditional belief, I think, elevates the experience and elevates what it's like to work and live in a Castle community at the end of the day. So it's pretty cool.
Amazing. Well, that sums kind of the entire Castle Group experience up, I think, at the end of the day, and rightfully so. You guys are building a winning legacy like the Green Bay Packers, and if I'm going to plug for you guys, I truly have seen it now that I've been to the office. I see it out in our industry in the field, and talking to you guys and your team. You mean what you say, and you do what you say at the end of the day, and so. Thank you very much for joining me today. It was great to get through this and talk about it. And obviously, yes, anytime you need GlobalPro or our team or any of the resources that we have to help manage risk to recovery for any of your associations, we'll be right there. You know where to call. And we're always available to you guys 24/7. I know when there's catastrophic events and things like that, you've told me about the command center and all that. And again, we're at your beck and call. Whatever you guys need, 24/7, 365. So thank you very much. We're gonna close up the show. That was wonderful. I appreciate the time. I'll see you soon. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to fish again, and look forward to the upcoming season.
That's great, Matt. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys for joining us today. We'll wrap up the show here. Great discussion with Mr. Schumaker. I think his audio cut out there, but it's okay. He's back on the screen with me now. But again, just to reiterate some of the things that we talked about, it's hard to grow a business, and especially grow a business from a small-sized 20, 30, 40 folks to thousands, and they've done it. And Castle Group continues to excel, continues to perform at a high level. And they truly do mean that they're bringing their royal service to your association. Should you want them to help manage everything, we want to just get some events out there for you guys. Today we have the CAI Southeast Florida networking event. It's up at Sparrow in Fort Lauderdale. Would love to see you guys come out. If you need information or would like to join us, send an email to recover@globalpro.com. And we'll certainly send you the details and get you going, and we'd love to see you out there. Other than that, thank you for joining us. Subscribe on our YouTube. Join us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all the other social media platforms. I think we're on Threads now as well, so I think every platform has the GlobalPro logo somewhere on there and a feed. And by all means, if you suffer loss or damage, I always say this. Dan says it every week. Rob says it all the time. Call us first. Let us help you manage your risk to recovery. Call us at 855-487-7475. Thank you again for all the time today. We'll see you next week. Same GlobalPro channel, same GlobalPro time, Thursdays at 11 a.m. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.